Oh, I'm a terrible roommate. I feel bad for anyone who lives with me.
It is such a joy to speak with you, Alex. Thank you so
Hey,
much for the time.
thank you for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, seeking is so much fun. It
Oh,
is it is
thanks.
so funny. Where did the show come from? How did it evolve?
Honestly, I was in Las Vegas doing a what was supposed to be like a new Beach Boys musical that storms Broadway and gets all the awards. It closed in a month, and I was like, well, okay, if I want a little more job security, maybe I should start making things. And so a lot of reality TV was very popular at the time, and I was watching it, and the first line that one of the characters says is. Man, we need better TV. And that's what was going through my mind at the time. So I was like, but those two things, I was like, well, either either do something about it or stop complaining about it. So I was like, so then I started to write it, and over the years it just kind of evolved because I started kind of playing with it in 2012, and then we did a an original pilot of it in 2016, and then I didn't have the know-it-all to or the wherewithal to kind of make it happen then, and then I did over COVID I did Annoyingly Fit Neighbor, which was a different series of mine, and I kind of got back into the groove of like creating and editing and like finding a voice again. And my director of the original pilot came back and was like, well, do you want to hit up this it was called The Struggle at the time, and we renamed it Seeking. He's like, do you want to do The Struggle again? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I opened a Fractured Atlas account, which is how people can donate to you and get a tax refund as well, and raised some money. And we shot everything in 6 days, like just down and dirty style. We were like, do we got it? Good. Get one more angle. Now let's go. Like it was crazy.
You did it in 6 days?
I don't know how we did it. What's good. I don't know if you look at the first four episodes, a lot of it's self-contained in an apartment, and I wrote that on purpose. I was like, well, if I want to do this on the cheap, like let's do few locations that I think I can get for free, and I did. So thank you to those locations who donated. But yeah, it was just really like kind of okay. We have this apartment for 3 days. One of my actors was in a Broadway show, and I think rehearsing a different show at the time and doing understudy rehearsal and coming to shoot 6 hours with us. So Demarius Copes was a rock star during all of that. So we just got it done in a week. And then we had some pickups here and there, but that was about it.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, you're right. But it being self-contained also really helps the show. Like that's
Yeah.
I think that I mean that's the purpose of it, right? How do we fill out this space
Mm-hmm.
and fill up this, well, I was going to say add a person, but fill up this group with someone else. Um,
Exactly.
so it keeps it rooted. So I mean, I got to ask you, what would you be looking for in a roommate if you were making your list?
Oh, I'm a terrible roommate. I feel bad for anyone who lives with me. I do have a bit of Colt in me. I tend to be very messy. I leave my stuff around. So that was kind of true to life for me. I honestly like I've had roommates in the past where I'm like, as long as we respect each other's space, and I would usually stay in my room and just kind of have my cat in there, and that would be my space, and I would come out and cook when I needed to, but that was kind of it. So as long as everyone's respectful and like does their own thing, that's usually what I need in a roommate. I, there's some truth to the whole like sometimes you want a gay man, so you don't have to be like, well, they're all having their buddies over for football while I want to watch Drag Race. So like, there's an element of that. But I've lived with all sorts, gay and straight men, and some women too. And it's as long as everyone's respectful, I'd say.
Well, it's all about the balance of power. That's what I
Uh,
come from the
yes.
series.
That's funny. My dad used to say that because I grew up with two sisters, and my mom and my dad. So he felt like the balance of power was off because there were more women, and say they would get control of the TV. And then when one sister would go to have a sleepover, Dad would say the balance of power has shifted. And I was like, Dad, I still want to watch the beauty pageant. I don't know what you're talking about. But,
It's funny. I My wife and I have two boys, and she's embraced the fact she said to me, she's like, well, the kids are into wrestling. I'm going to get into it because the balance of power is in the other direction, is what she said to me. Actually, she said that last year. I said, all right. So anyway,
Wrestling can be very entertaining. I saw. Did you see Iron Claw?
Oh, I loved Iron Claw. Oh my
Oh, sweet.
word.
That was an amazing film. I really liked it.
And actually, I appreciated the shout out to SmackDown on this. I was like, oh, hey,
I mean, we everyone watches it for different reasons.
that's right. That is a fair point. That's a fair point. Um, no, honestly, it really is a fun show. So with the chemistry you have with the other two is just great. So what was it about them that made you want to bring them into your home, if you will?
Damaris was actually suggested to me by my director, and I had worked with him previously in Broadway Bears, so I knew of him. And I think my director Jason Corson had directed him in something else. Is like he's really great, and he's really good with quick comedy. He's like good on his feet, and we needed kind of someone because Patrick kind of has the lion's share of the dialogue. He has, I originally written that part for myself, like in the original pilot, I was playing the Patrick role, and then how many so ever like 10 years later, I was like, I don't really fit that role anymore, so let me try this other one. And Demarius just hit it out of the park, and with Darius, aka Jackie Cox from RuPaul's Drag Race, um, I'd met I'd met him on an Atlantis cruise, and we'd stayed in touch, and I'd always liked how his shows came together, how he formatted his shows, and how he was very like thoughtful in his presentation. And I was like, well, if I need someone for this role who, spoiler alert, eventually like dips his toe into drag as well, I was like, well, who um, who would be good for that? And so I immediately thought of Darius, and he was really on board, and he was actually very instrumental in kind of like forming the character of Rez a little bit. Originally, it had the name of Rye, and he suggest it was named after a friend of mine. And he suggested the name of Rez because it like fit his heritage a little bit more. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then there were like Patrick and Rez can come off as kind of too similar. Whereas, so what we kind of found in the shooting was that where Patrick is kind of more biting and cynical about things, Rez is more like the rose-colored glasses of like, so it's like negative versus positive. So if ever anything went a little too skewy negative on the Rez lines, he'd be like, "Can we look at this and maybe like put a more positive spin on it, so it's not exactly like Patrick?" And I was like, "You're right." And so there were some times where I'd go back and just try to like um, color it a little more rosy, I would say. And Darius was really instrumental in kind of keeping an eye on that.
They're both really great, and as are you.
Thank
One of the things I thought was interesting about the film too is, or the series, I should say, series, is its interest in reality TV, because it sort of takes that stance, and of course, there's the framing with is it Real Housewives of Tennessee? Is that what it is?
The Nashville Housewives. I think we
That's
were
it.
we were careful to not say Real Housewives because I feel like that's
Branding,
trademark. So
branding. Yeah,
I was like, we can't say that. But yeah, and then we of course used all of my drag friends I could find for that. So
right. Well, what is it about reality TV that we find that you think we find so fascinating? Because I mean, we've been at this now for quite some time, and it keeps going. Like I thought it would be a fad when it first started, but it's here forever.
I mean, it found its audience. And I don't want to yuck anyone's yum about reality TV. I'm not personally a fan, but I think it's the car crash mentality. It's the can't look away. It's the Colosseum. It's the Roman Colosseum. It's wanting to see what happens to just regular people just living their lives. That we have that fascination, and I think for a long time that fascination was satiated, or for lack of a better term, with theater, with then later movies, later television, because it was like people seeing themselves on stage. And when when the writer's strike happened, and they're like, well, let's just put cameras in front of quote unquote real people. That also they found that filled the need as well, or just satisfied that need as well. So yeah, I think it has its place. I think it's not something I enjoy, but I have a lot of friends who do. So I'm always like, yeah, have at it. You can tell me what um, Bianca did. I don't know any of it. You, you, you can tell me what she
Whatever
did.
she
I'll be
is.
like, yeah, great, she did that, cool. But yeah, I like that there's just so many outlets where people can get their entertainment needs met. I should say.
Absolutely, absolutely, and good for Bianca. Um,
May she thrive.
may she thrive. Honestly, Alex, the series is a lot of fun. What is it that you hope people get out of Seeking?
I like, especially with the pilot. I want people. Jerry Zaks, who's directing the production of Mrs. Doubtfire that I'm in, he
Hmm.
said something really fun in rehearsals. He's like, with Act One, you kind of get them with the laughs. You kind of like throw in as much comedy as you can, because then in Act Two, they're attached and they care about these people, and then you can kind of take them through this journey, and they'll be with you. So what I hope they get out of the pilot is that like we get the laughs, you get to know these people a little bit, and that you're then wanting to see what happens to the rest of their story. And we already shot, the next 4 episodes, or the next like kind of half hour um, of show, so it does kind of take you into a little bit more of a path. And what I like about this project is that it was originally written as a web series. We're presenting 4 episodes as like kind of a half-hour pilot. The 8 episodes we already have shot are around 49 minutes, so it also is almost a single camera 1 hour comedy as well. So it can kind
Wow.
of fit into a bunch of different slots if need be. I personally prefer half hour. I think quick comedy. I think it's a little better. But yeah, so I just hope people get some laughs and get to know these characters, and are curious about where they go after this.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I want to see what happens next. So
Thanks.
thanks so much, Alex. I really appreciate your time and have a great,
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.